And welcome into in-game chat for Saturday, May 31st, 2025, Season 19, Episode 17. I'm Scott.
And I'm RJ.
Yeah. I got sick.
I know you've been sick, but dang.
Yeah, I got sick. I got sick last weekend, yeah, exactly. If you would like to get in touch with us, then by all means, hit us up on Discord or email us, the old email thing. You can, everyone at ingamechat.net. We're on Facebook, of course. We're on Twitter and Blue Sky and all manner of ways that you can get in touch with us if you want to reach out and say hello, just see how we're doing, that sort of thing. So, yeah, and there's a chat room, by the way. So if you want to watch us on Twitch, go to twitch.tv, type in in-game chat in the search engine, go to our website, ingamechat.net, go all the way to the bottom. There's links there for you to go so you can watch us. And there's a chat room there so you can join in and chat with everybody else who's hanging out there right now. Get this out of the way. I'm going to clap the board. And done. All right, that's all the show. Thanks. See ya. Yeah, well, when we get around to what I've been playing, there's not going to be much for me to tell you because man, getting sick will really throw off a 3-day weekend, man. Mm-hmm. I had everything lined up. I didn't have to do any yard work because I had taken care of that the weekend before. Mm-hmm. I have some work stuff that I take care of every other weekend. Again, I'd taken care of that the weekend before. Mm-hmm. I was primed. I was ready. I was like, you know what? I'm going to burn through Doom the Dark Ages. I'm just going to barrel through it and just go through that thing and have fun with it. It was a nice break of pace after Expedition 33. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just going to barrel through that. And then I'm going to, world's my oyster as far as what games I might jump into. Maybe I'll try Blueprints. Maybe I'll, play, something else. I don't know. It was just open. I was ready. And then I got sick. Mm-hmm. And I did nothing. I did nothing but nurse a fever. And stayed in bed and barely did anything at all game worthy. At all. I played the tiniest little bit of Doom the Dark Ages. But we'll get into that. I want to jump to you first there, RJ. What have you been playing?
Well, for the weekend, for the most of the part, I was still working on First Ascendant, and I've come to the realization that thank goodness that the grind is fun in this game because I've got
thank goodness the grind is fun, yeah.
thank God because it's that way because I've got a lot of grinding to do. Because for each character that I've unlocked, and I've got 13, and I'm on the brink of 14, yeah. I've got to grind all their weapons, their gear, their equipment, all that stuff, and that takes a lot of work to do because I have to in order to max out one of the weapons that I have for each character.
You got to do stuff over and over again.
Now I've got to get 5 total. I've got to make this weapon 5 times.
Oh,
to
God.
Get it to the max efficiency, the most it can be.
I say, oh, God, like I'm like, ooh, that sounds horrible, but, You know how I worked with Destiny and what I had to do in there. It's like, no, you got to do, I got to, and for whatever reason, I would make it make sense in my head in some way of like, that's fine, I can knock that out, no problem. But, to think back on it and think about the time you spend to do that, even though you may think you're just flying through there, you're burning a lot of hours just doing the same thing over and over again, 5 times over, 6 times, whatever you got to do, however you have to grind that over and over again.
At least in some cases, you have the variation, having to go to different locations, do different missions, things like that over and over again. Yeah. But in one weapon in particular that I was working on, literally the only place I can get it is this one area on the map. So you have to do that thing over and over and over again. But at least playing with different folks make the tedium a little more palatable, so to speak. But like I said, as long as it's still fun, so thank goodness it is because it hadn't felt like too much like work, not yet anyway.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So it's and try to avoid that burnout. Try to avoid that burnout as much as you can.
Long as
you see it coming.
As long as it doesn't feel like work like that, as long as it doesn't feel like you are. I'm saying this, realizing what I spent so many years doing in Destiny. Mm-hmm. As long as it doesn't feel like work, and I was like, you know what, that stuff felt a lot like work. Mm-hmm. Looking back on it now,
some elements to it.
Elements that I forced myself into. The elements themselves, yes, they were grindy.
Yeah.
But the fact that I put myself through it, found some sort of justification to put myself through it. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily blame the game. I blame myself for doing that.
Yeah.
It's coming off of, are we a year, 2 years now? Getting close to 2 years, I think, since my ban.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming away from that, coming away and seeing other games that I played, listening to you talk about what you got to do in Warframe, that sort of thing, going back to that and looking it over and I mean, I guess I'm proud of the accomplishments that I had in it, but looking back, it's like, man, why did you do that to yourself? Why did you do that to yourself? My big thing that were Destiny inside the game, they had medals that you earned because you did certain things, and you would get, if you did it that year, you got the medal, and if you did it the next year, your medal got a little flair on it because you did it 2 years in a row. 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row. You kept adding little flares to it.
Yeah.
And I was awfully proud of my Gambit because I had done it I was working on year 10, I guess, of getting that flare on there before I got banned. Mm-hmm. And when I look back at that, I'm like, man, you did that 9 times. Why?
I couldn't do it once.
Well, I mean, you're exactly right. I look back on it.
No, it was. I think my issue with Destiny 2 was basically, it was the PvP elements that I really didn't care for.
You didn't like the PvP part,
I really didn't care the part. I mean, working with the team, I'm all for that.
Well, that's what Gambit was for me. I could find a team and we could join up and do that, especially when you found a good team that was going through it, especially over Discord made so much better. When you could find, and I mean, I'm still a member of, well, you know what? Actually, I think I'd left some of those groups. I had other groups in Discord that were strictly for finding groups in Destiny to play with. And so I would just team up with them, and we were able to talk over, Discord. That works so much better than anything else, to be able to say, I got mine, I'm going here, protect me, whatever, that sort of thing. You got an invader, that's what he's over here. Just a lot of communication, which was really good. But regardless of any of that, there were so many things you had to do, and you had to do them year after year after year after year, and the things changed with how it worked, but I would still go through them and do that. And I just, looking back on all of it, and not just the Gambit. The Gambit was the one that I had the most of, but there were others that I did over and over and over again every year. And I look back on that, and I'm like, man, why did you do that? For what reason? I get that I have the accomplishment, but, am I walking around with a flip book saying, like, look what I did here, guys. Look what I did, For who? Yeah. For what? For my own purpose that now means nothing because, I'm banned from even playing the game. I don't know. We talked about it, and I really don't want to get back into it, but blessing in disguise, I suppose, for breaking the chain and that cycle of what Destiny 2 was doing to me.
Yeah,
because
I've said it all the time. That ban, in a way, the silver lining was that it forced you. It literally forced you to play other things in your library, and that's what it did. So silver lining in that case.
I can remember before I got banned. I remember before I got COVID back in 2020. I had the stuff done to my heart, or the stents put in September, and then about 2 weeks into October, the Halloween event was kicking off, and I was doing whatever with that, and then I got sick. And I remember at some point before the sickness, the COVID really put me out. I was playing Destiny 2 because I was finishing up the Halloween event. I was like, I got to go finish that up. And even then, I progressed through whatever to get through that season of whatever I was doing to grind that out. Getting banned from that thing, in some way, I would say it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm okay with the fact that I got banned from it. I wish I could have broken away from it myself. I wish I could have made that decision myself to say, stop. I wish I didn't have to have it forced upon me like that, because I think having it forced upon me shows just how much in the hole I was, I guess you could say. Because I can't, as much as I'm telling you now that I wish I could have done it myself, I don't think I could have done it myself. I think the band would have been the thing to have done it. And that's what it took. So, I'm fine with it. I've come to terms with it. It doesn't bother me. I suppose it only does when I see the guys popping in to do their raid runs. And if there was some way where I could just keep it at that, if there was some way where I could just keep it not all the other stuff that's involved with it, all the other stuff that consumed my time, and just stick with the stuff we did as a group.
Yeah.
I think I would have enjoyed it far more and enjoyed more games during that period of time instead of doing what I was doing. But, forest for the trees, that sort of thing. I was neck deep and couldn't do anything about it. So, blessed by the ban for getting me out of that, for getting me away from that addiction, I suppose. I'd call it an addiction. I don't necessarily know that I feel like it was an addiction.
A rut.
Rut is a better word to put it. Because I didn't feel like, I got to go do this. It was just something where it's like, I have this, I have until the end of the season to make this happen, and I would make it happen.
Yeah.
In some way or another. It wasn't necessarily that I was addicted to making that happen, yes. I don't necessarily want to say that I was addicted to God. I was not addicted to the grind. I was not addicted to putting myself through that. I was just in some weird rut or obligation of thinking I had to do it, And so having that break off was great.
This kind of reminds me of what you told me about Crackdown. I have to find the packages.
Once you get to a certain point, man, it's like, I got 3 left. 3 out of 500, whatever it might have been, Yeah, there's 500.
500.
There were 500 agility orbs or whatever it was called. There were 500 of them. May have just been only one, or may have just been out of the complete total, because there were different orbs that did different things, but there was 500 total. And every time you got near one, you'd hear a little noise, and it's like, ooh, there's one in the area, right? But the more you found, the harder it was to find what was left. If there's 500 and you're up to 200, it's like, whatever. But if there's 500 and you got 400, it's like, there's only 100 more out there. And then you'd find maybe 25 or 50 of those. Like, there's only 50 left. Let me see where I can find them. And there were guides to help you do that. There were guides to show you where they all are, which really sucks when you're just picking them up at random to begin with. Because then it's like, did I get that one? Did I get that one? I got to go through and find all 500 of these things. And eventually I did go through and get them, but that you were done. It's not like it repeated itself after 3 months, which is what Destiny does, 3 or 4 months, whatever the length of a season is in Destiny. And in that, once you found the 500, you were done. It was like, I think Assassin's Creed had like a bunch of feathers you could find, eagle feathers or something like that. I don't remember what it was, and that never caught on for me to try and do that. But I am Riddler trophies.
So I gave up on those.
Yeah, if we want to talk about that, Riddler trophies.
It got to a point where I just said, you know what, I'm really here for the story, so let me just go through that. If I see one, I see one. If I don't, I don't. And if push come to shove, I'll just go to YouTube and find something that way.
Right. It never felt like a grind, but the difference in that was I enjoyed the world I was in. I enjoyed that Batman stuff. I enjoyed being Batman. There was always something like, if I was on a hunt for Riddler trophies, there was always a group of bad guys somewhere where it's like, you know what, I don't feel like, let me go take these guys out and try something new with my combat or whatever I might want to do. But again, finite, There is an ending to it, and it doesn't reset itself every 3 months.
Yeah.
Destiny was different. It's like, here's this stuff, and once 3 or 4 months are done, do it again. And if you didn't finish, it's a blemish on your record type of thing. It wasn't, but in your head, you made it that way. So I don't know. I'm glad I'm away from it. I miss the guys playing. I miss them, but I don't miss that hook. I don't miss being pulled in. I never really. I mean, Snap may have taken that place, but not really. Not like it has with the way Destiny does. But I don't think I ever want to find anything like that again. The people was good. If I find something like that again that has the people, sure, the group, the sort of like Warframe, like you're doing. Mm-hmm. Like if I wanted to get in on that and you're there and I could play with you and we could go through it and do that sort of thing together and find a good group to do that with, which you've got, that's fine. But yeah, I don't. I'm happy for it, or I'm not necessarily regretful of it. I'm not necessarily proud of it either. There's a lot of little Destiny knickknacks that I got around the house. When I look back on that, I'm like, yeah, they're cool looking, but why? Why did I do that? Why did I devote it like I did to do that? And so, anyway, I'm glad it's behind me. I'm glad we talked about it before, but it opened up kind of a second, rebirth, sort of, as far as gaming is concerned, because it opened my library up. Mm-hmm. My library was locked behind Destiny. You got
you have a bigger backlog than I do, and yes, you had a whole bunch of stuff.
I know, and it opened me up to so much to be able to play. Mm-hmm. So anyway, did you play anything other than Warframe, or
First Ascendant? You mean? Yeah.
Or First Ascendant. Yeah. I associate you so much with Warframe because I remember you doing that.
I played it too. Yeah, I still got it too. But yeah, other than that, I did some more grinding again.
That's fine.
Grand Theft Auto Online. There was some new things that was opened up in there, and it's been a while since I've played, and there was a whole bunch of things that opened up in terms of money earning. Mm-hmm. So I did that. Got a couple million in-game currency out of it, and there were some other things I have to set up to get more out of it. So I'm going to be working on that later on. But outside of that, I did finally boot up the PS5.
Hey, congratulations!
Got it up and running. Still not used to that interface system. It's so much more complex than the PS4.
I know.
Like having to put I used to, like on the PS4, I have my games put in like individual folders. I got them all broken up and down in the order that I like.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and I can't do that on the PS5 unless I go to my library and set up another folder in a secondary folder.
Start all over again.
And start all over again with that. So, yeah, that's something I've had to go through. So, little by little, I've been putting the games that I'm playing here.
Best to start now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
There's like 400 plus titles I have to work with in my library. Half of which I don't know where they came from, probably from PS Plus. I said, I'll just download, and I forgot about it. And there it is. And so basically I'm looking at this whole list like, when did I get this? When did I get this? How did I get this? I'm not into that. Why did that type of thing.
One of the coolest things, and I wish our consoles would adopt this, and maybe at some point they will. But one of the coolest things about, and I say this about the iPhone, and I'm not trying to do an iPhone Android comparison here. So those of you who send an email saying like, well, Android, you could do this before. I don't care. One of the early things about the iPhone that was like, oh, finally, thank God, was that you could hook it up to your iTunes on your desktop. And you would have a layout of your screens, your home pages.
Yeah.
And you could manipulate the apps on your desktop how you wanted them to show up on your phone. And when you were done, you'd hit, a button, and it would arrange them on your phone just like you had done that, whether you're adding them into folders, moving them to second page, putting them in alphabetical order, or putting them in some sort of order that you're familiar with. You could do that through your desktop just by clicking and moving with a mouse. Mm-hmm. It's something I wish that when I sign in online to PlayStation or when I sign in online to Xbox, you would think Microsoft would have this done. And perhaps maybe they do. And I just haven't looked at it, but some way you could manipulate your home screen or your layout or something like that through your desktop, sync it so that the next time you're on your console, it shows up the way you set it up to be, rather than have to do it with the controller through the console's user interface.
Yeah,
I would rather use my desktop interface to manipulate my user interface on the my layout on my console, if they would let you do that. I don't think that they do, but it'd be great if they would add that feature in there. It's a small thing.
Yeah, I mean, right now, all I got is going through the library and setting up folders in my library and having to manually go over to a place. It takes longer to get to where I want to go on the PS5 than I do on the PS4. But like I was saying, I did get everything set up and running, and the first thing
you played Dead Space,
Dead
right?
Space, was getting Dead Space. So
I noticed that was on sale this week, by the way.
Yeah, but I had already picked up for like $20.
You got a good deal then, because I think it's for 30. Well, it's 30 digitally.
It's 30 digitally, but did it come with the digital deluxe edition?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, because I looked at the interface, and there was something about the $10 EA, all the perks of the digital deluxe edition for like $10, and I already spent $20 on it, so 30 went break even doing it that way if it came with it. But like I said, I started playing it, went through all the menus, trying to get everything set up because there's a real difference in that the DualShock 4 and the DualShock 5.
There is.
I mean,
oddly enough, you would think that there isn't.
Oh yeah, but
no. There is a difference.
There's a significant difference in the way it feels and how it handles.
It's got weight to it.
Yeah,
that controller's got a good amount of weight to it compared to your other ones. Yeah,
yeah. And my PS4 has a whole bunch of add-ons and things like with the extra tips for the analog sticks, things like that, all types of mods and things like that.
Which I think they fixed on the PlayStation 5 controllers at least. With the PS5,
it's got those nice little analog sticks on there as well, but it's not deep enough for me. It's like I want to feel the feeling of the indentions where my thumbs go. I don't have much of it on
the sticks. PS5, I thought you were talking about the triggers. I'm sorry.
On the sticks I'm talking about. So using that. Getting used to it.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make some kind of modifications for that. Third party.
There's tons of third-party mods for the DualShock 4 and I'm guessing the 5 as well. But I'm playing through the game, getting used to the controls and everything to set up, the default setup and everything. Yeah. I saw the difficulty meter, and it had the impossible mode on there, and just like it was in the original Dead Space, where it said you can go through this whole game
without dying,
one save slot. And that's all she wrote. You get bonuses and perks and stuff like that. I'm just guessing. I don't know yet, but I'm just guessing it's going to be the foam finger and a special type of suit or something. I don't know.
Like that. Probably if it's carried over from game one. Sure.
Yeah. So I'll probably be doing that. I'm just going to get a good feel for it the first time because when I did Impossible on the original Dead Space, I went through it the first time and then went back through it on Impossible setting. So that's what I plan to do. So right now I'm in chapter 2 right now. Yeah. And I'm working through that. And I've got all the equipment. I'm running through it. And I plan to go through the first run. I just want to use the plasma cutter because if it stays true, plasma cutter it's
kind of the best weapon.
It's the best weapon. It's the most powerful weapon you'll have. And if you dedicate all your nodes and upgrades to that weapon alone, it can cut through any enemy in no time. So I just want to see what happens in the remake version if I just focus on that and go through it. And then I'll go through it on Impossible and see how well I fare with that.
Well, good, man. I'm glad you fired up the old PS5, man. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, good looking display and system. So hope to get a lot out of it.
Yeah, man.
Even though I'm late to the party.
You're playing on an HD set, right?
Yeah.
You got an HD. Oh man, you're good. You're good. You're so good. You're so good. Get you 4K eventually. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I'll jump into like the little bit that I played of Doom: The Dark. I say a little bit. I've actually played more than a little bit of the game, but I only played a little bit of it last weekend. But I have played a good bit of... I say a good bit. I don't even think I made it halfway through before I've decided to, not going to play any more of it. We got music here. We're going back in time on this one. This is from Sonic Spinball, the pinball Sonic game type thing. This is called Toxic Caves from that game. We'll be back with more of In-Game Chat right after this. And welcome back to In-Game Chat. Yeah, this music. Bama Bryan says, I know this music. I know. I hadn't heard it in forever. And when I found it the other day looking for music, she's like, man, I'm surprised I haven't dipped back into this game for music. It's just fantastic. It's from Plants vs. Zombies. Way back. But yeah, I totally forgot about this game. Totally forgot how really good this game is. Music, the gameplay, all of it. Just really, really good. This particular track is called Graze the Roof. But I think it's considered like the main theme of the game. But yeah. Anyway, welcome back to the show here. So what have I played? We finished up. I mentioned that did I mention I finished Expedition 33? Or did I
missed it the last time, but you definitely played it.
I know.
You didn't do much, but you did.
Did I say that I finished it, though?
You said you played the littlest bit of Doom, the Dark Ages.
That was when I was sick, but I mean, did I finish the game on Sunday after the was I don't even remember.
I know you mentioned talking
I think
about
I finished
last
it.
show, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to say I finished it. But I don't remember.
Oh,
you know what?
Or?
No. I remember I stopped playing it because I thought, I don't know how much further this is going to go. Like, I had gotten to what I think is near the end, but it was close to when I needed to leave, to come into town here.
Okay.
And I didn't know, like, is there 30 more minutes of this? Is there 30 more minutes of cutscenes? Or what's coming? And I didn't know what was coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I finished up Expedition 33 the weekend after we did our show before I got sick. Yeah. And then I almost immediately jumped into Doom. It was, it's on Game Pass, and so I just downloaded it and started playing Doom, the Dark Ages. And I don't remember what chapter I got into on that. There's like 20-some-odd chapters. I didn't even make it to chapter 10. I didn't make it halfway before I just was like, it's kind of boring. And I hate to say that because it seems like...
It's monotonous?
Well, monotonous is a better way to put it, yeah. It's just same old, over and over and over again.
Monotonous like Dynasty Warriors, monotonous?
Yeah, I don't remember Dynasty Warriors. I mean, I do remember Dynasty Warriors. I don't think I ever played Dynasty Warriors.
Okay.
Just monotonous. You're doing the same thing every single level.
Yeah.
It's like...
Not a lot of variation in what you have to do.
You might get a new gun, but the perks are getting less and less the further I go. And it's like, okay, this is my arsenal. I mean, regardless of the new gun they give you, it's kind of cool, but usually you just fall back on your tried and trusty whatever it is that you've stuck with, Yeah. For some people, it may be the shotgun or the super shotgun. It might be one of the other ones. Once I got the super shotgun, I really stuck with it, even though it really needs you to be close to use it. It was really good.
Yeah, typically games like that, you get a bunch of really cool weapons, but yeah, in the end,
you just find the one that you enjoy.
The 1 to 3 that you really favor and stick with that throughout the entire playthrough.
The shield aspect of it, having a shield, having an ability to parry and block and that sort of thing, that was really a great addition. But you find yourself just doing it over and over and over again, It's very, very, and again, the going back to what did I do in Destiny all the time? I did the same thing over and over again. I get that. But it just felt samey. Level after level. They mixed it up with a couple of every other level type of things where you were still basically doing run and gun, but you were doing it in a different way. Like they gave you a mech to pilot once, but you're still just a giant Doom guy running through with smashing things or shooting things. Then they gave you a dragon to ride around on, which was okay, but for the most part, you still did the same thing. You dodged attacks, you shot at things, and when you took them down, you landed, and then you went and did running gun to take down the ship or whatever it might have been that you were doing.
So you don't do anything with the dragon himself?
No. The dragon would take out the guns on the ships, the airships that you were shooting down. Okay. They would take out the guns, but they would fire something at you and you would dodge, and that would empower your weapon somehow to shoot heavier bullets, I guess, or something. You know what I mean?
Because Doom.
Right. Like, this is going to take care of the shields. You know, if you dodge, you get shield-piercing ammo for a little bit for some reason.
Perk bonus benefit.
Yeah, figure that out, lore. And then you would take out the guns. Once you took out the guns, you could take out the heart of the ship. It would land, or it would crash, or it would whatever, and then you would land inside the ship, get off your horse, well, your dragon.
Your mount.
Yeah, get off your mount, go through the guts of the ship, take it out, and then get back on your bird and go to the next ship, and then do the same thing over and over again until you cleared all the ships out there. That I remember. What I do remember is playing through it while I was sick, and in fact, I want to say it was that level that I played through while I was sick. At the time I'd started the level up, I was not feeling as bad as I was by the time I finished the level. But once I got through with the level, I just kept thinking about it, and I'm just like, I'm not really having fun. And that was basically what I came to. Not that I think it's boring, not that I think, regardless, if you think it's great, then that's good. But for me, I just realized I wasn't having fun with it. You know?
You have any history with the Doom series?
Not a lot. The old Doom, the old Doom, the old shareware Doom. I have history with that and Doom 2. Doom 3, which I think was the one that they tried to go in the horror route. I watched somebody play that one. This is back before you had to legit be in the same room watching somebody play the game. That's how it was. You didn't have a YouTube to watch that play. So my buddy Ben, I don't even know if Dave's listening, but it was Ben. That was back when Ben was staying at my house. He played a couple of games that I watched him play through. Doom 3 was one of them, and Psychonauts was the other one that I watched him play through.
Yeah.
And I remember him going through Doom 3. I remember falling asleep while he was playing Doom 3. I specifically remember it was in that back room of mine where my computer is now. I had a CRT, big, I don't know, 32, 40-inch CRT tube television set up back there. And we had, it wasn't an N64. Maybe it was I don't remember what Doom 3 got released on at that time. It wasn't my PC, though. It may have been just a regular old Xbox.
Yeah.
You looking it up?
I'm looking up, let's see. Xbox.
Yeah. May have been regular old Xbox we had hooked up back there. And I remember I was on the couch that was in there, that's still in there, and he was sitting on the floor playing it, and I fell asleep on the couch while he was in the middle of playing it. I watched him play through most of it. But when they took it into the horror jump scare type thing, I was like, it's not my thing. That's not my thing. And then when they did the Doom remake, I played a little bit of that. I didn't play much. I could go back to it now that I know it's part of the whole Game Pass thing. And then they did Doom Eternal. I played a little bit of that as well. Very little of that because, man, it was so movement-based. It was so ability-based. Where it's like you jump here and you shoot while you're in the air, and when you shoot while you're in the air, you get this. Or it was very, very... they really made it run and gun, and I mean emphasize the run part of it. Because it was all about this flow type of thing that you would get while you're just moving and shooting, you know. Whereas Doom the Dark Ages is very much stay put, don't move that much, because you're this hulking whatever, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like when you jump, even when you jump off of, like, take the height of this desk, which is not very far, but if you jump from the height of this desk down to the floor, there's this big shockwave, because like you're just big heavy thing, armored to the teeth, you know. Yeah. But it's very much a don't move. You're not fast, and so anyway, I got bored with it. So today, I was like, well, what can I play? I was looking through my backlog and stuff, and it totally struck me. I was like, oh wait, you're in the middle of Assassin's Creed Mirage. Go back to that. You haven't done anything with that. And this morning I played some Assassin's Creed Mirage, and this morning more of that game clicked for me. As in, like, oh, this is how this works, you know? Oh, this is, the investigations that I'm doing and finding clues and doing all these things to figure out who the guy is that I'm supposed to kill. All of that was, it started to work for me together. Things started, some of the gameplay mechanics started to click for me better. Yeah. So I was like, all right, that's great. And I had fun with it, and I stuck with it. And I believe that'll be the one that I stick with now, is just, I don't know that I'm going to go back to Avowed. I probably should, given all the time I put into it, but that currently, until my situation gets fixed with my hands, and what, to just be straightforward with you, what I have here is apparently a pinched nerve in my elbow, in both elbows, actually. However, my left hand, which is my WASD keys, my keyboard key hand for movement, is the worst of, and I'm left-handed anyway, but it is the worst that it feels right now, with what's going on my fingertips and stuff like that, and my fingers. So until I get that, I can't even build Legos, man. I can't even put Legos together because it's just not. It hurts, to push and touch and do these things, and mainly because my whole arm needs to be extended for that to not feel the way that it does. Anyway, using the keyboard is just kind of out of the question. So Avowed, it's got some great controller support, but man, I played ever how many hours of that thing, keyboard and mouse, and I would like to get back to keyboard and mouse with it before I go any further. So that's the situation. I can play with a controller, which is great for Assassin's Creed. It was great for Doom, playing with a controller. It's great if it is a one-handed like mouse game, like for Snap when I'm playing on desktop. It's, I just use my mouse to play that with. When you play games like little puzzle games that I used to play, like House of Da Vinci, The Room, it's more point and click. And if I can do point and click, I'm fine for now. So, I'll get back to my mouse and keyboard stuff whenever they fix whatever they fix. I have an appointment on Monday. So to figure out what's going on, or at least what needs to be done to make this work. So we'll find out more about that as time goes on. Anyway, so I'm good with Assassin's Creed. Mirage is what I'm currently playing. That's it for me. That's what I've been playing outside of getting sick. That was pretty much it. We got a lot of news to go through, and I don't necessarily know that we're going to get to all of that news. There's just a bunch, This coming week, we have the release of the Nintendo Switch 2 coming up on, Thursday or Friday. Then, next weekend, I believe, is when it's our E3. I think next, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, I think is when Microsoft Bethesda do their showcase of new games. So, in fact, I've got a schedule here. Yeah, Summer Game Fest. That kicks off this Friday. On the 6th. And they're streaming it live from the YouTube Theater in Los Angeles. It is at 4 p.m. Eastern this coming Friday. I'm sorry, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. So, yeah, that's when that's happening. Afterwards, they'll have Day of the Devs, Summer Game Fest Edition. Then the Wholesome Direct, always a favorite of mine when that pops out. The Future Game Show Summer Showcase is then on Saturday, the 7th, while we're on the air. They'll be doing that. Then on Sunday, the 8th, beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern, noon our time, is when the Xbox Game Showcase happens. And then they're going to do an Outer Worlds 2 Direct right after that. The PC Gaming Show is then after that at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We don't know. We think there's a state of play coming in June, but we don't have anything to talk about. And then, of course, Nintendo Direct maybe at some point. But with the big Switch 2 release, I don't necessarily know that they're going to have anything this summer. Because I don't necessarily know that they have anything lined up to really kind of showcase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just released our Switch 2. And Nintendo's kind of always done the we'll do what we want to do when we want to do it. You know? Your little summer game fest be damned. We do our own thing.
Yeah.
We do not follow this this path that you have set before us. We carve our own. Seemingly is the case. So yeah, we are on the precipice now of our big summer E3 thing, and I totally snuck up on me. I didn't realize that it was happening so fast or coming up so fast.
Yeah, I was checking out the ticket prices for this Summer Games Fest thing.
Oh, really?
YouTube Theater in Inglewood, California.
Yeah.
Yeah. Price ranges now from $57 to $238.
$238? Mm-hmm. That's an oddly specific price.
I mean, that's the range it's got from Ticketmaster.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, I'm fine.
They charge a fee anyway, don't they? A handling fee.
I mean, if you're buying anything online, you're usually getting some kind of fee on it. And Ticketmaster, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They're horrible at it. But this is something you can...
Ticketmaster and horrible. I always do that in the same...
You can watch this on YouTube or Twitch. I mean, it's going to be everywhere where you can watch it. So, no point in buying tickets for it. But, but yeah, so that's coming up. I mean, we're going to have a lot to... Well, we won't have a lot to talk about next week because all of this stuff will be happening while we're here or will be happening after we're done.
Yeah.
But we'll at least have the Friday shows to go over. And then the speculation of what's to come after that. So, yeah, we'll see. Are we going to get a Ubisoft or are we going to get a Splinter Cell this year? I don't think we will. I'm just still going to sit on... Look... It's one of those things, why bet against something that hasn't happened in this many years now?
Yeah.
Your odds are still good that it ain't going to happen, given everything.
It's frustrating when a company sits on a franchise and just does nothing with it.
Well, the other thing, there's been no leaks, there's been no talks, there's been nothing. In fact, for Ubisoft, it's been bad.
All bad.
Yeah, it's been all bad. Star Wars Outlaws underperformed. It's just not been a good time for Ubisoft. So, thinking that they're going to fall back on, well, let's you know what this company needs, a big shot of Splinter Cell, a game that hasn't been around for 13 years or longer, and that's investors are going to say like, well, yeah, we'll put money in that. No. You're gonna do it. You're gonna go back to your basics of. Oh, I say your basics. You're gonna go back to what worked. Your Assassin's Creed, your Far Cry's. I don't know what other Ubisoft stuff there is. Your Rainbow Six Siege, which is your free to play thing that's going on. Your Division 2 has an expansion coming out. The Battle for Brooklyn, I think, coming out pretty soon.
More in New York. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I just don't think that Splinter Cell is on that radar for them right now. I don't mind being proven wrong. This is not one of those times where it's like, see, I told you. No, I would love for Ubisoft to come back and spit in my eye for saying that and be like, here it is. And it better be good when they do it, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Better not spit in my eye and be like, hey, we made a mobile game. No, that doesn't count. That does not count. Or a tablet game, or we made, you know what I'm saying? Something stupid.
That's a money grab. Given the situation, it would. That's most likely what would happen. Some mobile, quick, free to play something with
that, or some complete revamp of the gameplay. Something that's more like Hitman, Assassin, whatever that is, like a Hitman game. And it's like, no, that's not. That's never what Splinter Cell was. Splinter Cell was infiltration, not disguise, that sort of thing. Not, yes, it's to make it look like you were never there. Sure,
it was true stealth.
It was tactical stealth. It was very, it was very Solid Snake-ish in a way. It was very Metal Gear-ish like. Which, by the way, next month we get Death Stranding 2 coming out mid to late of next month, I think. So, I mean, it's a big June. June is big. You've already got a brand new console release in June, right at the kickoff. Then you've got a lot of, I say the big one's going to be Death Stranding 2, I think, for the release. And then you've got the E3 stuff hitting. So, I mean, June's packed. Packed with a lot of stuff there. So, yeah. So we'll hit as much as news as we can on this episode and go through a lot of stuff. There were some, to loop it back around to Destiny at the beginning of the hour or the show, there was some Bungie news. And it's not great Bungie news. And we'll talk about it. There was Gearbox news for Borderlands 4. Oh, Randy Pitchford. The CEO of Gearbox had something to say, and he backtracked and sort of smoothed it out.
Yeah, but the damage has already been done.
I mean, your damage is done, man. Your damage is done when you say something like that.
All you had to do was not open your mouth about it.
Yeah, but that's not Randy Pitchford's way, man.
I know.
That is not the Pitchford way. Pitchford likes to speak. So, and he absolutely put foot in mouth. So, yeah. There's plenty, so much. The Tiny Build Connect thing that was announced, where there was a lot of Tiny Build games that were mentioned. That will go back to Doom: The Dark Ages as well. Stellar Blade getting a PC release, although it's being blocked. But we'll talk about it and lots of stuff. We had the ending of Last of Us Season 2 on the HBO thing. Were you watching any of that or no? You're not watching any of it? No. Okay. By the way, it ended where I said it was going to end. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It absolutely ended where I said it was going to end.
You called it then, yeah.
Yeah. I figured that's a perfect point of, I wouldn't say cliffhanger, and we'll get into this because I don't have much time, because the way that they ended it, and we'll get into spoilers on this, but I don't know if people are going to stick around for Season 3. You already lost one main character in Season 2 early on. You lost one main character. Episode 2? You lost one main character in this one for Season 2, which already was like, I watched the first one because it was, Last of Us. Now it's just now it's just one person.
So the same reasons that the game got such talk story-wise.
Yeah, but what they did in the game, they did it better in the game than they did in the show. With the show, they took those parts in the game and made one episode out of it. In the game, you got little bits of this as you went along, So it wasn't necessarily just one little segment where that was around. You got these little bitty parts where, where he was there in flashbacks and that sort of thing to talk about it. And that worked really well for what they were doing in the game. Not so great in the show, but we'll talk about it. Anyway, we got to go. We got music here from Darkest Dungeon. This is called Dark Mitochondria. We'll be back with more of In-Game Chat right after this. And welcome back to In-Game Chat. This is music from, well, I don't even know which game this is from, but it is the theme for Professor Layton, which I really enjoyed. I haven't heard from a Professor Layton game in a very long time. So, anyway, welcome back. Do you want to stick with what we were talking about with Last of Us, since that's where we left off? I mean, might as well jump back in there and go into Last of Us.
Fresh in folks' minds, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you've played the game, the show is no real different here, and they end at the same place that the game switches the perspective. At the theater, when Abby shows up, and finds Ellie, because Ellie is searching for Abby. Anyway, she finds her, and at that point in the game, the same thing happens that happened in the show. Perspective shifts, and all of a sudden you're playing as Abby through the game. Not from that point of view. You start over from basically Ellie's first day in Seattle. You go back and experience what Abby experienced with Ellie's first day in Seattle. It goes back 3 days, and then you're Abby, and that's how they ended it. They ended it with a gunshot, and the screen goes to black. It comes back up, and Abby's over at the wherever the Seahawks play in Seattle, whatever the stadium is over there, that they've converted into like a base camp type of thing. And it's like Seattle day one, and credits roll, and it's like, okay, we'll come back to this at some point. I don't necessarily know how it worked in the game, the zeitgeist of the game. I don't remember the opinions on that. Yes, the whole thing that happens at the beginning of the game with Joel shook a whole bunch of people when they played it. And a lot of people did sort of like, well, I don't want to play this anymore because of what they did, But it happens so early in your $80 purchase game or $60 purchase game, whatever it was you paid for it. It's one of those situations where it's like, well, let me it's either let me play it out or let me see if I can return this because I don't want to do this. Whatever the case it may have been.
In fact, I remember some videos when that moment happened, there was some hostile reactions. Let's just say.
Yeah, no, that game was that game generated a lot of hostile reactions. To be honest with you, I mean, I was fine with it. I am more acceptable to things like that in a story-based whatever game, film, TV series, doesn't matter. Book, that's fine. If you can do it and do it well, I'm okay with it. I like when writers paint themselves into a corner or seemingly paint themselves into a corner, because if they can find a way out that works, that's not ridiculous or some sort of rug pull for the reader, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was all a dream, right?
Yeah.
Don't do that stuff. But if you can find a way to get yourself out of it, if you've written yourself into a corner and you're trying to figure out, well, how do we get out of this? Then, and you do it well, then, I'm here for it. I'm good for it. I'm okay that it happens. I wish more of my media would take those chances. You might get some good stuff out of it. Sometimes you don't need to take those chances. Sometimes you're not good at taking those chances. George R.R. Martin, by the way, but I mentioned that because he kills off a bunch of people, but he killed off somebody who was pretty pertinent. I say that. I never actually read the books. I'm just going by the show. They killed off somebody pretty pertinent, and then they brought him back to life, from whatever. And I know we're dealing with a place that has magic and dragons and all that stuff, so sure.
That's still bootleg soap opera type.
It feels it, doesn't it?
Stuff,
it
man.
felt it a little bit when they did that, when they pulled the rug on and now I can't remember the dude's name. Jon Snow. It did feel like that when they pulled the rug on Jon Snow, or at least the viewer. But there were a lot of rug pulling in that, and I don't necessarily know if I blame the show or the author on that. Here, however, the guy that wrote the game is also heavily involved with the TV show, Neil Druckmann. And in the game, we got more time with Joel throughout the game, even though his fate was met early on. In flashbacks throughout playing chapters, we would go back in time and we would slowly, as Ellie, start to piece together things and try and figure things out. You, as the player, already knew these things, but you were now seeing the character you were playing sort of start to put two and two together, start to make those steps towards, I'm not sure if he told me the truth. I'm not sure if he's, you just started to get to that point. In the television show, they devoted one episode, the episode before the final episode, they devoted one episode to all of those flashbacks and, the big thing, Joel's lie, that put them at odds with each other. And they did it at one time. It was really great the way they did it. It was good, that episode. I think they could have done it more if they had just kind of pieced a few of them throughout the episodes leading into that, because a lot of stuff that I was reading online from people who had not played the game and didn't know anything really about the game, had only really watched the show, were very upset with Joel not being in it anymore.
Yeah, that's the exact same thing happened with players in there,
And I honestly thought in the very next episode, I thought, we probably won't get anything there. We're probably going to get her dealing with what had just happened, which is exactly what we did. And then as more episodes went, I thought, man, when are they going to go back? And finally, when we got a preview for episode, six, it was like, oh, okay, we're going to do this. That's great. And it was like one episode devoted entirely to the flashbacks. And then it was over with. And again, so episode 2 happens, which is where Joel meets his fate. 3, 4, 5, no Joel. Anybody that has watched it is just seeing Ellie do her thing. No Joel, nothing. He's gone. If you were there for the two of them and you're just really not liking this solo player type thing, you've either checked out or you're like, man, this just doesn't hold the weight it holds anymore for me.
Welcome to our world. I've said plenty of times before, your wheelhouse was those two together. That was the sweet spot. The bread and butter of the story, the thing that kept all of us as players interested in the story, have the interaction between those two. And then having that sudden rug pull, like I said, he's gone now. Well,
right, but we got him back in more flashbacks than we did in the show.
Yeah.
Through the game, we got him back in more flashbacks.
In the game, we got more flashbacks because that was a slow burn. It was a long, drawn-out process because you're playing this thing for a long time. And multiple double-digit hours of playthrough. And you've got episodes to do this. So, but I think we talked about it a little off air. You said it could have been extended, but it wasn't. But
I think they could have. I think they could have pieced these more into each episode rather than devoting an entire episode to it.
Yeah, so it could have been like instead of a 7-episode season, it could have been 10 if they stretch it out a little bit more.
I mean, maybe. I don't know why they made it 7. I really don't.
Yeah,
I don't understand. I don't know if there was I don't know if there was a writer's strike they had to go through, or if there was. I can't remember what the situation was, why it was so delayed, or whatever it might have been. But anyway, so when they ended the season of showing it from Abby's perspective, it felt like it was even more. Again, reading online of people who are only paying attention to the show, not the game. They don't know anything about the game. They didn't know anything of it. They know that it's a game. They just have not played it, and they haven't followed it.
That's who you're trying to get to. You're trying to get to the people who have not played the game, not familiar with that.
So not only are they already upset about what happens to Joel, now they're upset because they have to follow this woman who did this to their man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I said that. Yeah, we understand why you did what you did.
Yeah.
But dang it, we still hate you.
Right. So for an audience that are only following the show and have not played any games or anything like that, for an audience that's doing that, they have no desire, seemingly no desire to want to follow this. They don't care. They want to see her dead. They want to see her get what's coming to her for what she did to Joel.
You watch playthroughs of the game. What was the first thing people did when they had to control Abby?
I don't remember. I really don't remember.
They like jumped off cliffs.
Oh, they just killed her. Yeah.
They
just like, I don't want to play as her. I'm going to kill her. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that aspect to it. And I mean, what they're doing in the show is exactly what they did in the game. But in the game, it is different because you have control. You can do what you want to do with it. You can continue on. Plus, they give you little flashbacks or little glimpses into different things, stories that sort of tie together, things that play out a lot longer than what they're going to play out on the television show. Mm-hmm. And I don't. Good luck. Because now you're going to focus season 3, at least the first couple of episodes, I would guess, or the majority of that season, following Abby around. And I just don't think you're going to have... You had an audience who wanted Joel and Ellie. You took Joel away from him. Now you're taking Ellie away from him and going into Abby's role. And I just don't know how many people are going to stick around for that. You know? I really don't. They're already upset that Joel's gone.
Yeah.
So we'll just, we'll have to wait and see whenever that comes around. I think 2027 or something when we're going to get that. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but how many spoilers they're going to get? Those folks are going to get exposed to your potential audience base.
Well, what it does for me is like makes me want to tell people who are watching this, and may also be gamers. It's like, man, you really should go play the game. You know, if you want better than what they're giving you there, you should go play the game. I'm not necessarily saying you're going to find better, but it's going to be delivered to you better than what the show's doing. You may still come to the point of like, I don't want to do this, but you're going to get more out of it. And you always would, you know? Mm-hmm. You're always going to get more out of it from the book than you will from the movie. You're always going to get more out of it from the game than you will from the TV show based on the game or the movie based on the game or even the book based on the game. You're going to get more out of it from the original.
Get it from the original source material.
The original concept of what it was. Because that's what it was written for. Anyway. I say that, and then I go back to season 1, and I'm like, that's perfect. That was perfect. Yeah. So, whatever. It's done. It's in the can, so we'll have to wait and see what happens next. Moving on to other news here. Let's see. Where do I want to start, man? PS Plus games for June, maybe? I don't know. Well, now you've got a PS5. You can start grabbing some of these.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe you were already.
Yeah, I mean, figure out.
It ain't a great month, by the way. NBA 2K25.
Okay.
Which will be available June 3rd. Alone in the Dark, the remake they did last year, that'll be available June 3rd. Here we go. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. That's the spiritual successor. That is the spiritual homage to Jet Set Radio.
Okay.
Yeah, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. That'll be June 3rd. And then Destiny 2, The Final Shape will be out. So, yeah. That's... can't do anything with Destiny unless I create a brand new account. And I'm just not going to do that. But Bomb Rush, Alone in the Dark, and this is NBA 2K25, whatever. So, what else we have? Expedition 33, Clear Obscure Expedition 33 sold 3.3 million copies in 33 days, which is that thing is doing great. I'm really happy with them, or happy for them, for what's going on there. And I don't know. We want to get in. We can jump into the Gearbox stuff. We'll talk about Randy Pitchford here for a moment. I've met this dude. I've played Borderlands against this dude, or with this guy, whatever it was. Was it Borderlands I played against him with? Or was it Halo? No, it was Borderlands. It was Borderlands. I was at E3 or PAX, I don't remember. But Randy was there, and I got to meet him, and I got to play a couple of games there with him. Me and a group of guys who were there for that. And I don't remember much about him. And I don't remember much about that. That's because my memory ain't great. The thing of it is that they announced that we don't know what it's going to be for what the price is going to be on Borderlands 4. But it's likely, he said, maybe it's going to be $80. He doesn't set the price. But somebody on Twitter said, Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increase of the price tag. You're the CEO. You have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher. And Randy responded, A, it's not my call. It's not. He can tell them, but really, they don't have to. You know, the publisher sets the price. And that's it. B, and these are his words, if you're a real fan, already, let me stop there. Already, if you start with if you're a real fan or if you're a real whatever, yeah,
you're screwing up already.
You're already screwed, right? You've already alienated a bunch of people.
And if you keep talking, you're about to alienate the rest of them.
Because, for one, I don't think there's real fans of Borderlands. I think there are fans of Borderlands. I just don't necessarily think that there are these die-hard Borderland elite. You know what I'm saying? I don't. Borderlands never seemed like a game that encouraged that sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's for whatever reason, it just never did. It's not like it was a what's a good, like a PUBG or something that's competitive where you get fans who are in that, or you get or something like a Last of Us or something that holds a good story, or a Myst or a thing like that. That just, you know, I just don't necessarily know that there's not fake fans. I just don't know the whole thing. Like if you're a real fan. Anyway, he goes on to say, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen. So if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make the $80 to pay for the game. No, you won't. Nobody like that is what this article says. Factually speaking, Pitchford isn't incorrect, not about the cost of Starflight at least. Games have cost $80 before. The launch retail prices for Neo Geo games range from $200 to $300. Equally true, however, is that telling a bunch of people who are facing continually raising prices when their wages have been stagnating for decades that they need to suck it up is inevitably going to, well, anger a few people. As proof, let's consider the engagement numbers on Pitchford's response. At the time of writing, it earned 1,600 replies, 900 quotes and retweets, and just 225 likes. It's a rough ratio, and the replies are even rougher. And, of course, they go on to show off a bunch of different people who would respond. And... yeah, a lot of people very, very angry with him. Let's see, I'm reading some comments here. I'd actually pay $80 for a perfect 10-10 game that is standalone, complete with optional DLC only. But as it is, we know that Borderlands 4 will not be that. And he says, you don't personally make those decisions, Randy, but let's not pretend you can't override them or that you don't influence who gets promoted to the positions that do make those decisions. And again, I'm not putting this on Randy. He does not make those decisions regardless. But he doesn't have to say something like that.
Yeah.
Then he attempted to justify those comments. Let's see. He said, if you want the truth, here it is. It's an interesting time, right? On one level, we've got a competitive marketplace. The people who make those choices want to sell as many units as possible, and they want to be careful about people who are price sensitive. So there are some folks who don't want to see prices go up, even the ones deciding what the prices are. Other folks accepting the reality that game budgets are increasing, and there's tariffs for the real packaging to consider. Pitchford said, adding, Borderlands 4 has more than twice the development budget of its series predecessor. Here's the philosophy we have. Whatever the price is, we're entertainers. Yes, we want to get more resources so we can make bigger and better games. There's a reason why Borderlands 4 is so awesome. It's because you guys showed up and supported Borderlands 3. And we had the budget. We could more than double the budget and feel confident in that. So, we're going to have a price set soon, and it might be the new price that Nintendo and Microsoft have led with, or it might be that we stay back. Either way, it's going to be the people at the publishing house who decide that. In seriousness, though, nobody likes being taken for granted. It was not my intent. I'm humbled by the love and support everyone has shown the team as we push hard to get this amazing game in your hands. Then he went back and he did another response to that as well. The whole, if you're a real fan, a 557-word like tweet or whatever.
TLDR.
Yeah. 557 text or word missive on Twitter about the whole thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing, though. He says, the absolute sincere truth, or he apologizes for the misunderstanding. It was not a misunderstanding, Randy.
Someone write that for him?
Yeah. No, I think it's him. I honestly think it's him.
All right.
He says, the absolute sincere truth is that I don't want anyone to pay any more than they should or are comfortable with, and I always work with the intent and hope that a customer always feels they got the better end of the deal no matter what they pay. The actual context was that a guy replied to a post about Borderlands 4 on the Switch 2, talking about $80, and said, look, if it's $80, the game will fail. That's not what he said. What I was trying to do was explain that it wasn't my call, but if a $10 price increase does happen, it'll be okay, and that Borderlands 4 will be okay because it's a great game and there are a lot of fans who will see the value and want it. I think my trying to shorthand that using the phrase real fans triggered some people, and I saw that it got inflated as I was making some big statements. I wasn't. I was just trying to help someone who I thought was sincerely worried about us and looking out for us. No, you weren't. No, Randy. You're really good at coming back and like saying, oh, you made a mistake. You're really good at that. But that other stuff still exists out there. The context of it still exists out there. All of it still sits out there on the internet. Because once it's on the internet, folks, it's there forever. Mm-hmm. And that is the same case here. $80, $60, or $70, or whatever the price is. I don't know. Mm-hmm. He said $10 increase. I figured Borderlands would have been like $60, $59.99, right?
Something like that.
Is it $69.99?
Whatever it is, it's not one of those titles for me personally, that I would pay day one for. It's going to be, look, eventually it'll drop.
It will.
And when it does, maybe then I'll look at it. But until it does, I got plenty of stuff. Like me and you both, we got plenty of the backlog to get to before the prices drop.
Borderlands has lost me anyway, and I mean, I don't want to look at it in that perspective, mm-hmm. because I would like to. It's for me, it's like, okay, well then take Borderlands out of it, put it on a game that you actually do want,
mm-hmm.
Put it on something that is coming out that it's like, oh, it's going to be $80 now. Mm-hmm. What franchise are you willing to say, well, then I will spend that money, mm-hmm. or what franchise are you willing to say that, man, I am a real fan? That's too much,
Yeah.
What is that franchise that you would look at and say, I say franchise, but just game in general, doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, what game in general would you, I ask any gamer out there, what game would you pay day one full price for? It's not a big list.
There's not. There's very few on my list that I would pay day one the full price
Day one full price for,
yeah. There's really not a lot on that. Outside of, getting it as like a gift or something like that, one of those situations. Yeah. But for me, obviously, it would be a Burnout title, or it would be one of the Myst games or something like that. Mm-hmm. And not even Myst, like that Firmament game that they released, mm-hmm. which was Cyan. I got it on a sale, Yeah. I didn't buy it right when it released. Mm-hmm. Abduction I was able to get because I had done the Kickstarter for it and got that. But Riven, when they did the Riven remake, I didn't pick that up day one. I got it on sale. Of course, it's a remake, so it means I already played the game, I already had it, so it wasn't necessarily something that I was experiencing new for the first time. It wasn't something where it's like, it's our first new game in ever how many years, like Abduction was for these guys. But, you know, I would be there for, obviously, for a Burnout. I would be there for anything in the Myst series of games. Yeah. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Destiny was one I would used to pick up, you know. And I say full price, but I was always getting the collector's editions anyway.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a game or a franchise or anything like that where it's like, I need that day one. I will pay whatever it takes to have that. I just don't. Especially now, I can't say that towards a whatever it takes. Right?
Yeah.
Like if your game's $80, it's $80, and if I can afford it and that's how bad I want it, then, you know, I'll look into it. But for the most part, $80 is a priority to something else in my life, not the video game. My insurance, this doctor I'm going to on Monday, is a $90 visit. Yeah. Take your Borderlands 4 and put it towards my visit to to this doctor that I have to go to, right? Who's a specialist or whatever. So there are other things that require that $80 than a video game in my life. And I don't know if we're on this path of 80 forever or 80 from here on out and it's only going up and never coming back down. I don't know. If we are, then thank God for Game Pass, so that I can play those. And
thank goodness for my backlog. And
my backlog, or at least on the PC where games tend to drop in price pretty quick.
Yeah.
Or at least you have an opportunity to catch them on a pretty good sale here and there. Otherwise, no, I can't. The priorities of things just, especially now, the priority of things. Because everything is going up.
Yeah.
So
you also got indies making games at fractions of cost.
Yeah, there's that too.
Fun. They're actually fun to play.
There's that aspect too. A lot of the times on my that GG Deals that I go to, because I've signed into it and I've sort of curated that whole website to sort of show me what I like. I can go through there and I can sort by cheapest to see, like, okay, what's on sale that's like real cheap right now. And I'll look at that and I'll be like, oh, there's one I've wanted, and it's only $150 right now. Boom. I'm paying you that over Warhammer Space Marine 2 or whatever it is that I'm looking at, you know, whatever may be on my list that I'm kind of itching to play, I suppose, that may not already be on Game Pass, because that's the first place I'll check.
Yeah.
Is it on Game Pass? Then I'll play it there, because it costs me whatever my subscription price is. And again, that's something else I'll have to look at, because once the subscription price goes up, then I have to look at that again. Is that something worth continuing to pay for? So far, I've found that it is. It's very convenient. I'm very lucky that it's there, or grateful that it's there, I suppose. We got to take another break. When we come back, we'll jump into that Bungie news too. I don't know how long we'll take on that, but we'll jump into some Bungie stuff as well. That's all coming up on In-Game Chat. Again, this is our, I don't want to say our classic episode, but it's one of the episodes where we play older video game music. And this one comes from Super Mario Sunshine. It's a very laid-back, kind of like the Plants vs. Zombie thing. It's just very chill. It's the Isle Delfino theme when you're walking around the hub in the Isle Delfino on Super Mario Sunshine. It's just beachy and just, you know, whatever. It's just kind of nice. So we'll be back with more of In-Game Chat right after this. Welcome back into in-game chat. This comes from the old Driver game. Doesn't sound like that. It's a remaster.
It doesn't sound like the...
It is.
Yeah.
The 20th anniversary remaster or something like that, but it was New York at Night Drive was the track it's called.
Sounds like the end credits.
Could have been. I don't know. Only thing I remember of that game was the video editor, and I used that. Boy, I used that.
Had a good time with that, huh?
God, I had a great time with it.
Yeah.
There is in some box, in some place at the house somewhere, I'm sure, that still that doesn't work, I'm sure, is a PS1 memory card that has a bunch of my edited chase movies from Driver on there. I mean, it was good. I loved it. If I went back to that, I'm sure probably the nostalgia is better than what it actually is right now. But I do remember how much. Yeah, I'll stick with the nostalgia of it just because it was really fun to edit your chase videos, because you could do like you could do a camera that was positioned inside the driver's seat, from the windshield, but you could also put a camera like near the wheel, like you would normally have in a lot of chase scenes where you can see the car coming, but the wheel turning. Yeah, kind of like the fender view. You had one behind the car if you wanted to that hovered and could follow. You also had cameras that would that you could put ahead of where you were coming from. They were in a fixed position. So, you could get the shot of the car and it would pan, as the car drives past, and then the police come behind it or something like that. There were so many different ways you could do it. There was another one I remember specifically because I had a Game Genie. And I was able to turn the gravity down a little bit or up or whatever it was so that things were a little floaty.
Yeah.
And so coming up off a hill, because this was based in San Francisco, you'd come off a hill, and because the gravity wasn't what it was, you'd have a whole bunch of airtime flying over. It was really great.
You were stunt driving.
Oh, no,
point.
I was absolutely Dukes of Hazzard the whole thing. And I'd put a fixed position camera right there at the edge of the hill, so when it came up, the camera panned and just got a shot of the car going way over the camera, and then, the whole thing would flip and turn because it was following as it came back down. Oh, God, it was so much fun to do those, especially when you'd have wrecks and all this other stuff, because you knew where the wreck was. You could put the camera in position to know, like, where's the best shot that I can get of these two cars that I knew were going to collide, because you had this whole, like, reverse. You could fast forward, reverse. You had all this stuff that you at your disposal to edit together a chase scene. It was great. Man, that's one of my favorite things are chase scenes. I love car chases in films. Absolutely love them. So yeah. Let's see. What are we going into next? Oh yeah, Bungie. The situation with Bungie. I don't know what's going to happen here, but a lot of people are not necessarily down on Bungie, but they are not having hopes for Marathon. There was artwork that was discovered in Marathon that had been used unauthorized. In other words, somebody who created a type of whatever art, I suppose, I'm not sure, some kind of digital art that they had done. Somebody saw it being used in Marathon. They saw it pop up and they're like, wait a second, that looks like my stuff. And then they went back to their stuff. It's like, that is my stuff. There's a little bit of a change here. In other words, they've edited out this little bitty thing here, but everything else is there. And the
concept art based on someone else's work?
Not even concept art. It's in the game.
Oh.
Yeah. Not only that, it's all over the game. They took this texture or this whatever it was, and it was just like plop, 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 plop. I mean, they made it all over the walls. They made it over everything. And then once that became the base, they would take other elements and kind of, let's drape a curtain over here or whatever, and just little things there. Not trying to hide it. It's just that they used it for almost the base art of the game without this person's permission. And Yeah, it says Bungie confirms Marathon uses unauthorized artwork and they're undertaking review of in-game assets. Now they came out and they said, "Oh, it's from a former Bungie employee," which is exactly what they've said other times during Destiny and other things that have been picked up where it's like, you use my art without, it's not the first time it's happened. Mm-hmm. You used my art without my, the first time it happens, you think somebody just Googled what they needed to find, they found it, they put it in there, and they just never asked the person if they could use the art itself.
Right.
That's happened before or at least that's the excuse we get from a lot of companies whenever these things happen. That some intern or some person on the development staff who was just contracted or whatever, needed something to put there for the time being, found it, put it in there, and they never took it out. And it went to, and so then they go back to the artists and they're like, "We're really sorry about that. We're going to give you credit in the game for that, and we're going to," which for the most part that works because it's kind of a one thing, but this is literally the aesthetic of the game is almost based on this specific artwork that was never actually authorized to use. I don't think they're suing them or anything, but Bungie knows about it. They again came out and said, "That was a former Bungie employee who did this. We're working on it, blah, blah, blah." It felt tired is what it felt, the response. Felt like, no, we've done this before. Why do you keep doing it? Let's see. Then there was this article. A new report alleges that Marathon developer Bungie is in chaos after the studio was forced to admit that an external artist's work had been used within the upcoming game Marathon without their consent. Oh, yeah, this was the Forbes article. Forbes claims morale in the studio is in free fall right across the organization, with one source telling the outlet the vibes have never been worse. The issue came to light earlier this week following recent playable alpha tests of Marathon from which an artist recognized their designs had been used. Responding via its less visible Marathon dev team social media account, Bungie wrote that it had immediately investigated Hook's claims and found that, yes, a former artist at the company had swiped the designs. Then, in an ill-timed and palpably awkward live stream last night, the developer revealed it would not be sharing any Marathon gameplay due to the ongoing investigation because the art is all over the game. Mm-hmm. This texture it's basically they took the art, they made it a texture, and then they put it all over the game.
Yeah.
During this live stream, they said, "Our show is a little bit different today. We had planned to show a lot more stuff, but for a lot of reasons we're about to get into, we decided not to show a bunch of this stuff. But we are going to be discussing a lot about what we learned through the alpha, some of the plans that we're going forward with." They later said part of the reason Bungie wasn't showing any gameplay was because the team was still scrubbing all of our assets to make sure that we are being respectful of the situation. It came to our attention that an artist who worked on Marathon in the early stages of pre-production took a number of graphic elements from a graphic designer without permission or acknowledgement and placed them on a decal sheet that was then checked in 2020. The decal sheet included icons and text elements. These elements ended up in our alpha build, and there's absolutely no excuse for this oversight, and we are working on and 100% committed to our review process to ensure instances like this don't happen again on Marathon or at Bungie. But they keep happening, man. Forbes now reports sources at Bungie say the explanation given publicly about the incident, which is that a former employee is responsible, is the same reason given internally, but morale was in free fall as the team scrambled to recover from the latest in a line of plagiarism accusations. With changes to its marketing plan, which predates this week's incident, and possible amendments to its playtesting plans, as well as now an audit into what should be every single graphic element used on Marathon, some fear the shooter will struggle to hit its September 23rd release date. Forbes also intimates that staff have been uneasy with the direction of development, saying, as far back as 5 years ago, devs were telling management what would and wouldn't work and were often ignored. Many have said previously that it needed to have some sort of PvE component and not strictly be a PvP game. Sony and Bungie Legal are reportedly looking into what happened with the stolen assets, but Bungie's decision not to share any footage in the live stream that had happened earlier this month is perhaps telling enough. Marathon is set to launch on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox on September 23rd. I don't necessarily know that they're going to hit that. It would they need a massive wipe of content to do that. They need to, I don't know. I don't know. And that's the thing. If they can get this switched out, that's great. But I just don't necessarily know that they can and still go through all their playtesting.
No, they got a lot of scrubbing to do.
Yeah.
From what it sounds like, they got a whole bunch
Then
of
there's
stuff
marketing, which marketing is probably already being ramped up, or at least, flyers, whatever, print ads, just whatever all types of...
Whatever tools they want to use to expose the game, get the game exposure for it, yeah. But the only exposure they're getting right now is we got to hide some stuff.
I don't know. I think it's...
Expect a delay.
That's my thought. The problem with the delay and the morale that they're talking about, I think, and if there's and maybe there's people in chat, or there's people who listen to this and want to call in next week, or send me an email. From what I understand, from what I gather, is that this marathon is basically Bungie's, I don't want to say their Hail Mary, but in a sense, it's like their last.
So they're putting a lot on it?
I believe so. Well, they got a lot riding on it because if it underperforms, Sony can say, all right, look. That's when Sony can say, hand it over.
You've had your shot.
Yeah, you hand it over. We'll take it from here. Not that Sony can do any better, Concord, but I remember us talking about kind of like how the last bit of Destiny there, the final shape and everything else, didn't necessarily perform as well as Sony had hoped that it would. And so a lot of their chips went into Marathon thinking like, all right, Marathon's different. It's not Destiny. It's something else. It's, Bungie knows how to do these things. And in all honesty, Bungie does know how to do a good shooter. They do. They have a whole lot of missteps when it comes to putting them all together, but when they get it right, regardless of stealing art, the mechanics that they put in here work. The controls work. They're really good at those. They really are. I could not have grinded as much as Destiny 2 as I did if just the shooting was lame.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It's fun, and it's hard to... I've not found anything that really holds me like that since, when you can do the same thing over and over again, but because it's fun, because those mechanics work. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to them on this. A lot of them fear, though, that this is it. If we can't hit this, whether it's the September 23rd release date, I mean, if it gets pushed back, who knows? Who knows how far it's going to get pushed back? You got to worry about GTA 6 hitting next month, or not next month, but next year. Mm-hmm. I don't think it'll get a delay that big, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But if it's not there, then Sony can come in and pull our air quotes independence. Mm-hmm. Bungie considers them independent because Sony, even though Sony owns them, Sony, from what we understand, relatively has stayed away from them and said, "You guys do your own thing. We'll give you the money."
Yeah.
But you do what you got to do. And Sony's looking at this like, okay, Destiny Final Shape didn't do what it was supposed to do, according to Sony. If Marathon doesn't do what it's supposed to do, according to Sony, I think they lose that. I think Sony then comes in and says, all right, now we're going to give you supervision. Now we're going to come in and give you, don't do it that way, do it this way. Or whatever the case may be in that regard. I don't know. I hate to end on that because I really honestly feel like I would just like to stop talking about Bungie, but there's a lot going on for next week, and we're not going to have a lot here to talk about because we're going to just have so many new games they're going to be talking about next week, just based on Friday's big reveal, the Nintendo Switch 2 release next week as well. I won't really have much to say about that because by the time we do a show, the console will only have been out for like 2 days.
Yeah.
Much more than that, there's really only Mario Kart World to kind of talk about. And even that is just, hey, it's Mario Kart in an open world setting. There. I could give you a lot more. I could be more detailed about it, But there's video after video of you to look at and see, and it's Mario Kart. People have played it. Mm-hmm. It's just, yeah. So I don't necessarily know we're going to have a lot of Switch 2 news, but Friday for the Summer Games Fest, we will have a lot to talk about on Saturday, and we will go over all that stuff. So a lot of the news we didn't get to is probably news that we probably will not ever get to either. RJ, thank you for coming in, man.
Hey, no problem.
And thank you, everybody who was hanging out in the Twitch chat room there. We really do appreciate your time. Sticking with us through the off days and everything else, the sick days, the off days, all of it. We do appreciate your commitment to Sparkle Motion. So thank you so much. We're gonna end here on Donkey Kong Country 3. Listening to this, I realized I am a guy. I like drums. I like drumming, and so I like music that has focus on drums. That is every single track in every single Donkey Kong Country game. Almost. It is the majority of tracks in almost every single Donkey Kong Country game, drum heavy. Why I never dip back in there, I do not know. But this is called Mill Fever. We'll see you next week for more of In-Game Chat. Have a great week.